So, welcome back to the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. I am so excited for today's guest. She is proof that you don't need to cross the ocean to find adventure. From her roots as an RN in Wichita to building a loyal following as Midwest travel mama, she's made it her mission to spotlight the charm and the culture and all the hidden gems of the heartland. So, we'll talk about how she transitioned from her role at the bedside into content creation, her favorite underrated destinations, some of the budget-friendly Midwest travel tips that you might want to take note of, and of course, how points and miles factor into her travel strategy. So, if you've ever underestimated the Midwest, this episode might just change your mind. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, I have the honor of working with you by the bedside in the ER back in Wichita. Happy Nurses Week, by the way.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So you were always one of my favorite people, an amazing bedside nurse, one of the people that you want to have by your side when things start to go down. So just wondering if you could take us through your journey from then till now.
Sure, it's kind of a complicated journey. I worked in the ER as a nurse for 11 years, right out of nursing school. Loved the adrenaline, loved the, fast pace of it. When we had kids, it got to where, I didn't love it quite as much. Just dealing with the stress, the constant stress of the ER, as you know. And then COVID just changed everything. I think healthcare is just so different, at least when I left from COVID. Everything changed. And it felt like I was going to work just to make some guy rich and not getting to, take care of my patients. So I decided in the spring of 22 to leave the bedside. I just didn't love it. It was just weighing a really heavy weight on me and a lot of stress in my life that I didn't need. So I left the bedside, kind of felt like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, nursing was my identity and it was a huge part of who I was. And around the same time, I was dealing with the loss of my mom from cancer. So kind of navigating the grief, and I had 3 kids under 5 and, losing this kind of piece of who I felt like I was. And so we just decided that we were going to, make travel our hobby. It was something we'd always wanted to do, but, we had little kids, we were paying off student loans and just didn't have a lot of extra money to do it. So I came up with this crazy idea. I was like, I'm going to start a travel blog. My husband's like, okay, that's whatever. I'm like, my goal of this is to help make travel a little bit more affordable for us, hopefully maybe make a little money off of it and help offset some of the costs of our traveling. And so that's kind of how it was born. I really just needed something to fill my time that I wasn't nursing. And so decided to start a travel blog. And like I said, family of 5, single income. We didn't have a lot of money to, take luxury vacations and expensive trips. So we just started by exploring our own backyard and, finding cool places in Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma and places around us that, I'd grown up close to my whole life, but I'd never visited. And so that's kind of how my social media was born, and people really like to see cool places where they didn't know there was anything cool to see. And so it just has kind of taken off.
Yeah, it's really blossomed, and I watch some of your stories and see some of your clips, and I'm like, that's in Kansas? We were there in Wichita for like almost 5 years, and I'm like, I can't believe that's in Kansas, and like we never even knew it existed. So
Yes, exactly. And, I've lived here my whole life, and, there's places 2-3 hours away from where I grew up that I had no idea were there. And, you go there and you're just like, what? This huge cave, or like, places you can dig for crystals, like salt flats in Oklahoma, just crazy places that, you had no idea were there. So it really has been fun to kind of highlight the Midwest and Kansas and the rest surrounding states and find things that people just had no idea were there, including myself.
So how do you find these interesting places?
That's a good question. I spend a lot of time on Google Maps, and a lot of time on social media really is I feel like the best place to find hidden gems. I kind of like my secret sauce is I join like local Facebook groups for like wherever we're going to go. So like we planned a road trip through New Mexico last year, and I like joined like a women hiking in New Mexico Facebook page, and people are happy to spill, all these cool places on these local Facebook pages. And we actually found one place and we could only get there by GPS coordinate. Like, Google Maps couldn't find it. And it was these cool slot canyons and it was amazing. But like, I never would have found it if I didn't, join this Facebook group. And so that's kind of my pastime now is I like scroll Facebook and scroll Google Maps and all trails and, try and find cool things. And then I just pin them on my Google Maps and then we go there sometime.
But you're traveling with small kids and you're just finding these random places. How do you know if it's gonna be something that, like, is kid friendly versus, like, I'm gonna go here and be like, "How did I end up in this place?"
Well, my husband's like running joke is that it's one of my adventures when we are like driving through the ruts on a dirt road with our phones in SOS mode and like looks like we're gonna, be lost. But, I think the biggest thing with what you just said is the first thing I did was adjust my like expectations. I changed my mindset of like kid friendly places to not kid friendly places. And to me now, everything is kid friendly. Like, as long as there's no safety issues, like steep cliffs and stuff like that. I mean, everywhere we go, I would consider kid friendly. You know, it's just a different kind of kid friendly, versus like Disneyland or, just letting them play in the creek or, collect rocks and sticks. So just kind of adjusting that to be like, you know what? Kids go everywhere and everywhere is kid friendly.
I love that because I know trying to get my kids to go to certain places is a little challenging at times. But yeah, every time we go somewhere, they fall right in and yeah, they collect sticks and you realize that they don't need screens. They can just be out there meandering and, playing with the rocks and they'll have like the best time. So
I think it's a really great lesson too for your kids, like compromise, learning that like, being in a family means sometimes we get to do the zoo or the amusement park that you want to do, but then also on our trip, we get to do things that me and dad like to do. So, kind of just learning like it's not all about you. We have to compromise and do things that maybe aren't our favorite, but that's part of being in a family.
and I think a lot of times when they get there, they're just fine. We have a kids book club that we run every month. And so for this month, we're planning on taking them out hiking somewhere. And I mentioned it to my kids and they're like, we're going hiking. And this is my son who's like 10 now. And he's like, and I'm like, every time you go out there, you always have an amazing time. So don't give me that like we're going hiking and you have to be outside, but you have to hear about it before you go.
Oh, yes. I know my kids too. They're like, well, we don't like hiking. I'm like, well, you always have fun and we always, yeah. So it's good for them to get out of that comfort zone.
It's like, yeah, you actually do like hiking. So let's go.
I've learned you can't call it hiking. We're just going to go explore.
Exploring. That's a good one. So we're going exploring in a few weeks. What were some of the most like surprising places you found?
I think Iowa was one of our big surprises. We visited there last summer. We spent, I think, 4 nights just kind of road tripping through the state. And, I was kind of hesitant to like plan a trip to Iowa because I'm like, what is there in Iowa? Like just first glance, like first Google, I'm like, okay, there's nothing. But I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let me look up some things. And we did some of the state parks, and there was this huge cave, like a state park that's literally just made around this like humongous cave. And we went there and explored, and it was like so cool. And just some of the state parks, some of the like small towns in Iowa were just really so, so cute. So I think that was like the biggest surprise to me. Just like, you hear the Midwest is so boring, but as long as you look past, get off the interstate and actually like, find the cool things to do, there's really some great stuff. And on our way back from that trip, we were at the gas station and some guy was like, oh, you're from Kansas? Why are you in Iowa? And I was like, oh, we're here just, hiking and exploring. And he's like, what? There's nothing to do here. And I listed off all the things we did. And he was like, what? I lived here my whole life. I never knew any of that was here. So just kind of opening your eyes to places that you didn't know were there.
And that's so true because I think if you are driving through, like we've driven across country like multiple times and you're just on the highway. And honestly, like Kansas is like the most boring place to drive through. It's so flat, you're just leaving like Colorado where there's like mountains and you go to places where it's, really green. And then you get to Kansas and it's like rolling prairies. So I imagine it's similar in Iowa and Nebraska, some of those neighboring places. So I love that you're able to find like these really cool places that, again, if you just open your eyes and get off the interstate, you'll find these places.
Yes, so true.
What's been your favorite place so far?
I think my favorite place that we've explored in the Midwest, and this was kind of what made me like fall in love with the Midwest, was Door County, Wisconsin. We went there 2 summers ago, and it's like the uppermost peninsula of Wisconsin, and it's like surrounded by Lake Michigan, and it's just like the most beautiful place. Like you would think you were in like coastal Maine because it's just all these cute little coastal towns, and there's just beautiful beaches and boats and all these cute little coffee shops. And it just was beautiful. And there's just some amazing beaches. And I just loved the vibe of it. It was so sweet and so cute. And that was like by far my favorite place. We went up there and just all of Wisconsin was amazing. And I remember telling people, we're going to Wisconsin for our summer trip. And they're like, what is in Wisconsin? Like, what is there? And when we got back, it just was amazing. It blew my mind and really opened my eyes to like, if this was here, like this was just 10 hours from us and, we drove here in a day, like what else are we missing that is really close? So definitely Wisconsin has been my favorite place, but we're going to Minnesota and Michigan this summer. So we'll see. I think we'll be close contenders.
I think people will, if they haven't already, they'll learn to stop asking you, like, why are you going there? And just wait for the post. I don't think I've ever seen you go to a place that was like, oh, that was disappointing. Have you ever felt that way when you've gotten to a place when, planned all these things? And
No, actually, I haven't. And I think the reason why is because I think that everywhere is great. I think it's just different. And so, like, knowing, like, you can't have the same expectations for Nebraska that you do when you go to Florida. Like, every place is great and they all have great things about them. You just have to be open minded and not compare, and be like, well, this was nothing compared to a beach trip, or Disney World or something. Just, finding the things that were great about it and kind of looking at it that way.
I know you said you can't compare, but I know you've taken a few trips outside of the Midwest recently, heading to the Big Apple and recently to Hawaii. So how do they compare?
Like I kind of just said, everywhere is so different. I've never been to a place that I was like, ooh, I hate that place. Like, that's awful. I'll never go back. I love like seeing the difference in all the places. And so I think that's why I love travel so much, is because every place is so different, from busy New York, which was great, by the way. And then, tropical Hawaii was amazing too. But I also think, Kansas and Iowa, Nebraska are amazing also. So I don't know. I guess I'm not a good person to ask because I love everywhere. Anytime I'm on a trip, no matter where it is, I think it's great.
You're just like, I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And just see somewhere new. We have this cool map that we got for our wedding, actually, and it's all 50 states. And so we love to like pick our next state of where we're going to, scratch off on our map and then kind of like, hit all the different spots and see how different they are. So
how many do you have left?
we're going to cross 25 this year. And then we have quite a few on our list for next year. So our goal is to hit all 50 by the time my youngest turns 10, which I think we'll do it before that. And then kind of start transitioning to maybe international travel at that point. I don't know. The thought of like an overnight flight and like a 10-hour time change with a 3-year-old is like very daunting. So we need a few more years of US travel first.
Yeah. And when you're traveling within the US, most of them are road trips, or are you flying, or?
So road trips up to now, my husband and I both earned companion passes this year. So we're relatively new in the points and miles game. And they were road trips up till now just because that's what we could afford. A family of 5, airplane tickets, and then a rental car and your hotel and your food and everything just added up, and it would eat our budget really quick. So we could stretch our budget to do, 3 road trips in a summer versus 1 flying trip. But we kind of got into points and miles, probably 2 years ago, and kind of slowly accrued those. And then this year we earned companion passes. So we're doing a decent amount of flying this year and next year and kind of using those points in other ways besides just Midwest this year.
Very nice. Nice. And so for people who don't know about the companion pass, tell us a little bit about it and how you earned it.
My husband and I each very strategically, because the timing is very important to us, opened a business card and a personal Southwest credit card and waited to hit our minimum spend till the first of the year. And then all of our points hit our account and we had enough points that we earned a companion pass, which is basically like a buy one, get one free on all of your airfare that you book. And so we also have this huge pile of 300,000 points, Southwest points to book flights on. And then we can book, for our family of 5, we can book tickets for all of us with only paying 3 fares. So it's a huge cost saver. My husband and I flew to New York. He was my companion. Sorry, not New York, Hawaii. He was my companion. And we paid 35,000 points round trip to go to Hawaii. So we're talking $3,000 plane tickets that we paid, $11 for. So
I would love that.
it's kind of surreal, almost like I'd followed along, and we decided we didn't want companion passes, to earn them the previous year because we'd already had our travel booked. And so like now we have them, and I'm like, oh, look, we can just like fly somewhere for the weekend, like for free. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I love that with the companion pass, like you said, you can use points and then you can use your companion pass on top of the points. So you don't have to actually pay for like a cash fare in order to use the companion pass. And with Southwest companion pass, unlike some of the others, they don't charge you like a huge fee to use it.
You just pay the taxes, and I think it's like $5 a ticket. So
Yeah, which is insane, right? People are like really big fans of the companion pass, and that's one of the reasons. Like American Airlines, I signed up for their card and they gave me a companion pass and I like never used it. It was like $100 and like there were all these blackout dates and you couldn't fly. I don't think you could go to Hawaii. You have to stay like within the continental US. So like there were all these like restrictions to being able to use it. So it's like by the time you jump through all those hoops, you're like, I might as well just go ahead and pay cash for the ticket.
yeah, I feel like it's not worth it. No, we're kind of transitioning from Midwest. We're going to kind of finish the summer doing Midwest focused and then kind of transition my account to more of like a US family travel adventure. Just because, I'm not a repeat vacationer. I don't like to go to the same spot. I want to see new places. And so,
I'm the same way. Yeah. Even if you like love a place, like there's so many new places to see. I always have a hard time going back to like the same place like again and again. So
yeah, I'm the same way. There's just too many places out there I want to see. I don't have enough time to go to the same place every year.
So for people who are maybe thinking that the Midwest is in their future, or maybe they're trying to plan their summer travels and they're looking for things that are, a little friendlier towards their budget, what are some of the places that you would recommend?
We love St. Louis. That is like my number one recommendation when people are like, where should we go this summer? I think St. Louis is such a family friendly city. There's so much to do and you can do it on a budget. They have like their zoo, a ton of their museums are all free. The Arches, the national park is there. It's just such a great city. And we visited 3 times last year, and there's still things that we haven't done that we want to go back and do. So St. Louis is like my top pick for anybody. If you're looking for somewhere like more northern, I think Milwaukee's great. You can fly in there and there's tons of things in that city. And then you can drive up, to Lake Michigan, Door County, anywhere in that area. Chicago's awesome too. Like I love Chicago as well. So I think there's just so many. I could give you a list of like 15 different cities to go visit this summer, but those are my top 3.
Yeah, well, I feel like Wisconsin is like probably like in my future.
You would love it. It's amazing. Lake Michigan is just like this. We're going back this summer to the Great Lakes, and this will be our 3rd summer in a row. And it's just like you forget that it's not an ocean. Like it's just beautiful. The beaches are beautiful. The water is so clear. It's cold, but it's so clear, and it's just I don't know. It's just special, very special. So
Every time, well, I've been to Chicago twice every time, but the first time I went with my kids and like they had such a great time. They keep asking me if we're going to go back to Chicago. And then, the weather was like really nice. And people always talk about like Chicago, like the weather is, it's so cold and it's windy and, all these things. And we went at times when it shouldn't have been like nice weather. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Maybe we should move to Chicago.
yeah, we love Chicago. We went last summer at the end of the summer and spent 5 days in Chicago. And my kids are just like yours. They're like, can we go back to Chicago? It was so fun.
Yeah. So what do you think their favorite place was?
I don't know. That's a good question. I should ask them that. I would say probably Chicago was at the top of the list. We also did Disney World. Gosh, has it been 2 years? Yeah, 2.5 years ago. And that was, like a bucket list trip for all of us. So we just did a whole week at Disney and it was amazing. And they still remember that. I don't know though, like favorite spot. I'll have to ask him. That's a good question.
Well, I know you just came back from a trip with just your husband, right?
Yes, and our adult friends, but no kids.
Okay. And where'd you go?
We went to Kauai. We spent a week on the island of Kauai.
So how was that?
Unbelievable. Amazing. It's our 10-year anniversary coming up in like the next 2 weeks. So we had been planning this trip for, I don't know, gosh, like almost 2 years and just spent 8 days exploring the island and this is our first time to Hawaii and just all the beautiful things there. And it was amazing. Bucket list trip for sure.
I know we have an upcoming CME trip that we're taking to Kauai and we're taking the kids along. And so I need all the tips and recommendations for things to do and things not to do while I'm there.
I don't think there's anything I would say not to do. Do everything, eat all the food, drink all the coffee, eat all the shave ice. It's just everything. The beaches are great. We brought our own snorkel gear and snorkeled tons, just beautiful fish. And We took the Captain Andy's raft ride, which we loved. I don't know if I recommend for little kids, is a little rough, but they have other options that would be kid friendly. We did mountain tubing. We did a luau, which was fun. We did all the things and it was great. It was just such a fun week. There's so many things. Even 8 days is not enough time. You'll still leave and be like, man, I wish we would have had a few more days.
Well, you know what? Hawaii is not one of those places. I know I mentioned that I don't like to go back to places, but Hawaii is one of those places like I don't mind going back to.
It's funny you say that because just literally last night in the car, we're already planning to take the kids to Maui next year for spring break. And in the car was like, I would totally go back to Hawaii right now.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been to Maui. We went the first time with just my husband and I, and then we took the kids last time, and then we spent a couple of days in Big Island during our first Maui trip. So we were trying to, pass through each island and just kind of see what they have to offer. My husband's from the Caribbean, and so he loves the fact that he can go to somewhere that's still within the US and still kind of get the Caribbean like vibe. So he's always like a fan of like going back to Hawaii.
Well, he'll love Kauai then because one of like the biggest things we learned from just our guides and the people we talked to is it's like the most authentic. Like it's the least like touristy and they've really tried to like embrace like the culture there and just keep it very like authentic. So that's why we loved it. It just felt so like, yeah, I didn't feel like we were a tourist, in a tourist destination. It felt like we were just there, enjoying the beautiful island.
Well, he'll love that. And I think we've also realized again, he's the vacationer and I'm the traveler. So I think he's looking for something that's a little laid back and just kind of chill. I know we kind of talked a little bit about the Captain Andy's boat ride. So I know I was sending him messages last night. I'm like, hey, which boat ride are you interested in? Because they have like the sailboat ride and they have like catamaran that's a little more like refined. And he obviously picked the speedboat ride. And I was like, okay, this is great. And I start going through the reviews and I'm seeing reviews of people like, yeah, I was holding on for dear life the entire time. I was on the speedboat and my feet, you're literally like holding on for dear life with your feet underneath the rope and, for 4 hours, just like hitting all these waves. And I'm like, that sounds like maybe something we would do, but I don't know if I want to take my kids on that. So
Yes. Yeah, it was great. We had so much fun, but yes, like you said, that's exactly it. You are holding on for dear life. There was times that I was like, how has nobody ever fallen off this boat?
so you did the speedboat.
Yeah, we did it's like a giant raft, kind of like an inflatable. I mean, it's not obviously inflatable, but it's like,
It looks like an inflatable raft.
yes, there's no seats. You like sit up on the side of like the raft with like your feet hanging over and your feet go under this rope and you have a rope to hold on to. Like that's as secure as you are into the raft. And so that's why I was like, at one point, I was like, how has nobody ever fallen out of this? But
Yeah, for like 4 hours. I can't imagine no one's fallen out.
yeah, you take breaks and, like when you're actually like on the coast, he goes nice and slow. And like we had a break halfway where we got out. We couldn't snorkel the day we were there because the water was very cloudy, but we still got to swim right in front of like the big opening scene from Jurassic Park. Like that mountain is on the Nepali coast. And so like we literally swam right in front of it and it was just amazing. It was so cool.
Did you see any dolphins?
We did. We actually saw there was like a whole pod of spinner dolphins that just like followed our boat and we like drove next to them for like 10 minutes and I could have reached out and touched them. They were so close. There was probably like 30 of them. So it was really cool.
And you mentioned the rafting as well. How was that?
It was great. That was definitely family friendly. It's these old like irrigation tunnels that they dug, years ago to help irrigate the sugarcane. And so now they have like a way that they can control the water levels in it. And so it's really safe. The water doesn't get high or anything like that. And so you just hop in these tubes. It's really cold, but you're not supposed to say that it's cold. It's invigorating, they tell you. And you just like wear a little headlamp and because you go through these I think there's 5 of them, dark tunnels, and it's super fun. It's very relaxing. It wasn't like high adrenaline or anything. So your kids would love that.
Very cool. And so did you have a chance to visit both sides of the island?
We did. We stayed on the North Shore for 4 nights in Princeville. We rented a little condo using our Capital One points. And then we stayed on the south side at the Grand Hyatt, and it was amazing.
And did you do that with points?
Yeah. Yes, we used our Chase points and transferred them to Hyatt for the Grand Hyatt and did 4 nights at each using all points. So we spent $0. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, so for those of you who are listening who maybe took advantage of the Chase Sapphire Preferred offer that's been floating around here recently and got 100,000 points for, your spend, this could be your $0 hotel stay at the Grand Hyatt in Kauai.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
And then you said you booked your condo through the Capital One portal?
No, so we actually have a Wyndham card and we transferred our Capital One points to Wyndham. And then through Wyndham, you can book through Vacasa, which is kind of like Airbnb, but it's a little smaller. They have a pretty good footprint on Hawaii. So we found it was like a 1 bedroom with a loft. So it had 2 bedrooms, but technically they can only call it one. And we booked it, and I think it was 30,000 points a night. But since we are Wyndham card holders, we were able to get, I think, a 10 or 15% discount. So we paid like 27,000 points a night for a 2 bedroom condo. So pretty good deal.
That's really good. And I didn't know that about Wyndham.
Yeah, it's great. It's sometimes can be kind of tricky to find the availability because they charge like how they charge for points is kind of weird. Like it's per bedroom. And also, like, it has to be within a certain price range. So, like, you have to call. You can't book online, but you call and you're like, hey, I want to book this for these dates. And they tell you how many points it is. And then you book it that way. So, yeah, it's actually a really good, that's kind of why we got into Capital One, because I was like, hey, we do a lot of like, Airbnb style stuff with the big family. So, yeah, look into Vacasa and they have quite a few options.
Well, I have a Wyndham, the business earners card that I got last May. And I've been saying how like it was like the worst card that I've gotten since I started this game. And so I'm sitting there. It took forever to get approved for it. They want like my tax information. And then I finally got the card. And I got the card because I was intending to do the status match here in Las Vegas. They have the status match merry-go-round that has like ended. And I was like, we were going on our Disney cruise and I knew we were going to the Bahamas and they gave you like free night stay at Atlantis. And changed all these rules like in like the last year. And I was like, what was the point of me, getting this card? So maybe this will be the redeeming quality.
It is. And I actually have the same card and it's like 8 times point on gas. So it's a huge earner card for just like our gas fill up. And which it's nothing fancy, but like Wyndham has a huge footprint. So like a lot of times that we can't find, if there's no Hyatts, we can find a pretty decent Wyndham for 13,000 points by the time you get your 10% off, 15% off with your business card. So it's one of our most used cards just because, then like we're road tripping through, we just need a place to stay. We don't want to spend a whole bunch of money through the portal. So yeah, we actually use our Wyndham card quite a bit.
Okay, well, we'll have to chat after this because I'm like, May is coming up. And so I got the card and the date that I actually got the card and when they actually sent me an email saying that, hey, welcome to Wyndham was not the actual startup date of the card. So then I didn't actually meet the sign up bonus. So I was like, I got this card. Where's my 40,000 points? Dang it. This might be a reason enough for me to hold on to at least one more year because I have a few stays that are coming up that I'm looking to book like an Airbnb versus like hotel. So
yes, definitely check it out because we've had pretty good luck. And like the house that we booked, we got it for a really good price because it technically only had 1 bedroom, even though it slept 4. They only count it as 1 bedroom, so it's cheaper. So yeah, definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, good to know. So you said that's one of your most highly used cards. What other cards are in your wallet?
So obviously our Sapphire is our number one. We use that for all of like any dining. We have it downloaded on our like Walmart Plus to scan and get 3 times, and then our Kroger app to get 3 times on our groceries. We just got the Venture X. We'd had the Venture for 2 years, and it was probably my top 2 most used. But since we're doing all these flying trips in the next 2 years, I really wanted the lounge access. So I canceled my Venture and got the Venture X. So that's one of my most used too. When we're not working on a sign up bonus, we usually use that because it's 2 times points on everything. And then we love the Ink Cash for the 5 times on gift cards. I always load up Amazon and like make sure you use the Amazon gift cards for 5 times points.
Yes. Yeah, I think those are some of my favorites too. I had the same thing. I had the Adventure for like 10 years. Like that was like my oldest card. And I downgraded it to a Saver One card so I could get the grocery store benefit because I was in pop-up jail with Amex. They gave me business cards, but they wouldn't give me like personal cards for whatever reason. And I'm like, I need a grocery store card, so I'm not just like using my husband's gold all the time. So I downgraded that and then got the Venture X, and it definitely comes in handy because it earns 2 times for like everything. So you don't have to think about it. And then a lot of places still don't take Amex. So like when we're traveling outside of the country, they won't take Amex. And I have the Blue Business, which also earns, 2 times for everything. But if they don't take Amex, it doesn't help me. the DMV wouldn't take our Amex cards, and I'm like, "How am I supposed to get 2 times points for my car registration?" So, yes, Interact, came in clutch because, again, I get 2 times points for, same necessities, so
Yeah, for sure. So how do you typically redeem your Capital One points?
The first time I redeemed my Capital One points using the points erase feature because didn't know anything about points, and I was like, "Oh, I've got all these points." I'd probably pay for, like, a whole wedding using my Capital One card at some point. And, I was like, "Oh, we went to DR and I can erase the whole trip," which probably wasn't very good use of my points, but, like,
Hey, it's a free trip.
yeah. And now I usually, like, wait for, like, a transfer bonus, and then I'll transfer it out, or, like, when we booked Singapore Air to go to Singapore in January, I used my Capital One points to transfer over. So, they're great for flights, not so much hotels, but yeah.
I haven't like branched out into international flying yet. So like it's very intimidating to me to, think about like transferring to, you know, airlines that are going to fly international. So, but I'll get there.
You will get there, yeah, and I think that's the thing, you get started, you know? You pick somewhere and then, like, being able to transfer to Hyatt is so easy.
Yeah. And our Southwest points are so easy. Like I don't even have to think about it. It's just
So I think once you start making the easy redemptions and you see how much value you can get from those points and you realize, "Oh, yeah, like, I can do this," then you start branching out to, like, booking trips and things like that, and then it's like, "Oh, piece of cake." Or it's still actually, I shouldn't say it's not as easy, not as seamless booking flights because there are a lot more nuances, and it can be a little nerve-wracking when you transfer your points over and there are flights there that you're, like, waiting to, like, book, and you're just waiting for your points to come through, and you're like, "Ah," you know? But it's fun, and it's nice having all those options available to you, so
yeah. Well, I mean, it's opened a whole new world. Like I said, we could take 2 or 3, smaller road trips a year just with the budget what we could set aside, what we could afford on travel every year, but points has just stretched our travel so much. I mean, like we're taking like I don't know. I think I counted we're taking like 8 or 9 trips this year and I'm currently working on our like a winter trip too. So, I mean, just crazy. Like we could never have done that without points and miles.
just booking the hotel, so even if you're on a road trip, if you're passing through, like, smaller places, your points are gonna stretch even further because, you'll book a Hyatt for, like, 10,000 points instead of, 30,000 points that you would use to book something that's a little higher end.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that you found your niche and that you found a way to help so many people who are looking to travel more affordably and still be able to take memorable vacations because I think that's what it's all about. I don't think it's about, how far I can go or, how much money I can spend on this vacation, but it's really about being able to spend quality time with your family and your friends and the people who matter to you most and doing it in an environment that's new and enriching and just, really just creating those memories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my biggest you kind of almost get FOMO by like some of the Facebook pages and Instagram pages of like all these points and miles influencers who like fly business class, their whole family to France. And some of these redemptions are just crazy. And I think just me sharing about how points and miles has changed our life. And we're not doing extravagant trips. We're just road tripping through the Midwest, but it's still made it more affordable for us so that we can, take more trips and like you said, make more memories. And so my biggest thing with points and miles is use it to however works best for your family. Like if you want to save your points and go on one big trip to, the Maldives or something, that's great. But if you want to use your points to road trip through Iowa, that's great too. Like use them for what works best for your family and can create the most memories for you.
Yes, I 100% echo those sentiments because we like the big trips, but we also like being able to just get away for a weekend and, drive up to Utah and do something that's small and you can come back and you feel refreshed and it doesn't take as much effort to like pack and get yourself ready. And you can still go and, have those moments with the people who matter most to you. So
I think both you and I kind of agree on this that let's do it now and not wait because we have no idea if we'll get retirement or, what someday will look like. And so, yeah, making the memories now and knowing that this is a great time to start traveling and adventuring with your family.
yes. Well, I know your mom would be really proud of you to see all the things that you're doing and all that you've accomplished. I know I am. So,
Well, your dad would feel the same way, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I won't take up any more of your time because I know you have someone who's vying for your attention right now. I hope this episode really just inspires people to just take those extra steps and make those moments, look at the Midwest with a fresh set of eyes because there's so much that's available to you. So if you're in California and you're like, okay, I've only seen the coast and this is all there is, maybe take a step back and see if there's something else out there. St. Louis is a quick flight, lots to do with kids, lots to do with family, really good food. I can vouch for that. So, definitely a place to visit. Like I said, Wisconsin, I think is on my list. I have a cousin that actually lives up there, so maybe I'll steal away to go visit her for a weekend or something.
It's amazing.
Where can people find you if they want to know more about Midwest Travel Mama?
So you can find me on Instagram or TikTok. I don't do a ton of TikTok, but my handle's just at Midwest Travel Mama. And I also have a blog that I'm semi okay at updating, but like we said, technology is really hard. I try and post most of my itineraries and kind of like bucket list stuff on there too. So yeah, any of those.
Well, I'm sure everyone will be checking out all that, and I'll make sure to post that in the show notes. So if you're interested, make sure you check that out. Follow her on Instagram, check her out on TikTok for all the things. And until next time, just keep collecting those memories.